Amen. Let the doors be open, que l'on ouvre les portes. Statements by members, déclaration de députés. The honourable member from Nepean.
Mr. Speaker, last weekend I had the pleasure of hosting Vesak Day on Parliament Hill, celebrating Buddha Day along with hundreds of Buddhist Canadians. Vesak, also known as Buddha Jayanti, Buddha Purnima, and Buddha Day, is one of the most important Buddhist festivals. The festival commemorates the birth, enlightenment, and passing of Gautam Buddha. I would like to recognize and thank the spiritual leaders of Pho Guan Shan Buddhist Temple, Ottawa Amitabha Buddhist Society of Canada, Hilda Javardhana Ramaya Buddhist Monastery for participating and blessing the gathering. Thanks to the artistic performances by groups from Sinhalese Buddhist Congress of Canada and Bangladesh Canadian community. Also thanks to children from Buddha Light Dharma Drum Team Association and the choir group of Buddha Light Association for their wonderful performance. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
The honourable member from Souris, Moose Mountain.
Speaker, last night Candace Bardabonk was presented with the Knight's Cross of the Order of Merit of Hungary by the Hungarian Ambassador of Canada. This honour is given in recognition of Canada's value-creating activities in order to preserve the identity of Hungarians in Canada and to strengthen their cultural, linguistic, and spiritual community, as well as their dedicated work to strengthen bilateral relations. Candace, a fourth-generation Hungarian Canadian, grew up in Moosomin and Kipling, Saskatchewan, where her family settled after immigrating in 1880s. In 2021, Candace was given the role of Hungarian Honorary Consul in Saskatchewan, and she continues to promote and celebrate her heritage and traditions through a variety of initiatives. She was instrumental in the restoration of the Bekevar Hungarian Reformed Church, a local landmark in Kipling area that helps to preserve the legacy of the historic Hungarian community. Congratulations to you, Candace, for this achievement, and thank you for all that you continue to do on behalf of Hungarians in Saskatchewan.
L'honorable député de Vimy.
Mr. Speaker, on the 19th of May, we commemorate the Pontic Genocide, a day of remembrance on which we pay tribute to the 350,000 lives lost and the hundreds of thousands more deported, a tragedy that was systematically imposed by Turkey from 1914 to 1923. A population of 700,000 people disappeared, Pontic families massacred, a community that had been in existence for 2,600 years wiped out, Pontic children, Pontic women, and Pontic elders murdered. This is genocide.
This genocide was part of the broader Greek genocide and was conducted in parallel to the Armenian genocide as part of Turkey's effort to cleanse it of non-Turkish inhabitants. It is our moral obligation to stand in solidarity with the survivors and their descendants, to bear witness to their suffering, and to ensure that the truth of these atrocities is never obscured or denied. The recognition of Pontic Genocide Remembrance Day reaffirms our commitment to truth, accountability, and justice. I appeal to all Canadians to sign House of Commons petition E4929 to
The honourable member for Mirabel. Mr. Speaker, the name Luc Sabourin has echoed several times in this chamber. He is synonymous with integrity, courage, and humanity. Luc saw his professional life and health destroyed after choosing to do the right thing, denounce wrongdoing within the federal government. Unfortunately, instead of punishing the guilty parties, the system punished him. Him, like so many others. A disgrace, Mr. Speaker, that should scandalise this House. Over the past year, in support of my Bill C-290, Luc has given powerful testimony in order to better protect whistleblowers. But a few days ago, Luc was presented with the prestigious Peter Bryce Award by the Centre for Free Expression, a distinction that is awarded annually to recognise and honour an individual who has served the common good by denouncing breaches of trust towards the public and the taxpayer. Mr. Speaker, I invite this House to join me in congratulating Luc and honouring whistleblowers. Thank you. You are the heroes of democracy, and we will not give up for you.
The honourable member from Pierrefonds-Dollard.
Mr. Speaker, May 18, last Saturday, was Tamil Genocide Awareness Day, le journée commémorative.
Tamil Genocide Commemoration Day. 15 years before, on the same day, there was a massive massacre.
Were tragically killed. This despite the fact that the Sri Lankan government declared no-fly zones. Till today, many Tamils remain missing and displaced. In a day and age where 120 armed conflicts are currently ongoing in 35 countries, recognizing the Tamil genocide is absolutely essential. To bring peace and stability, we need justice. It's for this reason that we recognize the Tamil genocide. It's for this reason that Canada last year applied 6 strict sanctions against Sri Lankan officials. We all hope for a day where we have peace and security, where all live free of war. Merci, Mr. President.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
The honourable member from Charleswood St. James, Assiniboia Headingley.
Kyriakis Vogiatsakis, Kiri for short, owned the Cork and Flame restaurant in St. James. He loved his customers and they loved him. He always greeted them with a smile. He loved going from table to table just to chat. At the end of lunch or dinner, a tray of desserts would often show up, compliments of the house. Every Christmas, he donated hundreds of food hampers to families in need. He loved the community, and they loved him back. Tragically, on January 24th, Kiri was murdered in cold blood at his restaurant. His assailant was on probation with a record including court order breaches, drug possession, possession of a weapon, uttering threats, and obstructing or resisting a peace officer. His death is a symptom of all that is wrong with our revolving door criminal justice system. We will miss you, Kiri. My condolences to his family. May his memory be a blessing.
The honourable member from West Vancouver, Sunshine Coast, Sea to Sky country.
Mr. Speaker, today I rise to recognize a local hero. On April 10th, Chris Evans was on his way to work in Squamish when he detected smoke in the distance. As he got closer, he saw a house on fire with a car in the driveway. Fearing that meant someone may be inside the house, he knocked on the door. Hearing no response, he quickly jumped into action, breaking down the door to search the home to see if his suspicions were true. He found 9-year-old Armin Constantin sleeping on the second floor. Chris was able to wake up a disoriented Armin and evacuate him out of the burning building. And perhaps it is a coincidence that Chris Evans shares the name with the actor who played the Marvel superhero Captain America, because that day his actions were heroic. Armin almost certainly would have died if not for Chris's selfless bravery. I hope all members of this House will join me in applauding this extraordinary act that gives new meaning to being a good Samaritan. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
The honourable member from Kingston and the Islands.
Mr. Speaker, held annually on May 25th, World Africa Day celebrates the continent's diversity, rich heritage, and culture. At the same time, World Africa Day provides an opportunity to reflect on the challenges that many regions in Africa face and how we can help. Harnessing the humanizing power of art to be a catalyst for change, Heather Haynes founded The Art of Courage, creating a platform for storytelling through art to create awareness, educate, and advocate to raise funds to change lives. Heather operates through her art and heart, and today the organization has grown to support over 1,000 people, primarily women and children, in Goma, Democratic Republic of Congo. Today, we welcome Heather Haynes and The Art of Courage to Parliament Hill on display in the Speaker's Gallery from 4 p.m. to 6 p.m. I encourage all members to stop by and learn of the incredible work Heather and her colleagues have been participating in for over 15 years.
Here, here.
The honourable member from Thornhill.
The application by the ICC chief prosecutor to elect Israel's democratically elected leaders for protecting their country from terrorism, simply put, is outrageous. The false equivalency drawn between the elected leaders of a democracy and the dictatorial, genocidal Hamas terrorists should be a wake-up call to all Western countries as a willful distortion of history. Conservatives unequivocally reject it. What is even more appalling is that the Prime Minister opted against taking a clear stance in rejecting it. By playing both sides, the Prime Prime Minister is allowing terrorism to win and enabling the violence that is rampant in our streets and the chaos that is happening on our campuses. The arrest warrant is based on a falsehood that is trying to invert history, and the Prime Minister should for once, just once, take a clear position. He should have the courage to denounce the warrant and state unequivocally what side Canada is on. I know that he can't do it, and now everyone else does too.
That's right.
The Honourable Member for Saint-Laurent.
2019, Greeks across Canada and around the world commemorated the 105th anniversary of the Pontic Genocide. The Pontic Genocide, which was part of the Greek Genocide, was a deliberate and systematic destruction of the indigenous Greek community in the Pontus region and was the result of an Ottoman government-issued decree that led to the systematic annihilation and brutal extermination of over 353 Pontic Greek men, women, and children between 1914 and 1923. I would like to thank the Pontian Association of Montreal, the Hellenic Canadian Congress, the Hellenic Congress of Quebec, and all other associations who have been working hard to ensure that we never forget. I'd like to thank the Canadian Hellenic Congress for initiating the petition to have the Greek genocide officially recognized by the Government of Canada, and I encourage all Greek Canadians to sign it to have your voices heard. Today I rise in the House to pay tribute to the victims, survivors, and families of the Pontian Genocide. Que leur mémoire soit
May their memories be eternal.
Aeonia imnimitus.
The Honourable Member from Kenora.
After 9 years of this NDP Liberal government, Canadians are having to cancel their summer vacation as the price of a simple road trip is now unaffordable. Mr. Speaker, this government's inflationary deficits and high tax agenda have driven up fuel costs nearly 50%. And now they are planning to quadruple the carbon tax and make everything even more expensive. But common sense Conservatives are calling for this government to give Canadians a break. Mr. Speaker, we are calling on the government to axe the carbon tax, the federal fuel tax, and the GST on gas and diesel until Labor Day. And that would save Ontario families $592 this summer and allow for more people to be able to take a family trip. We already know that the Canadians cannot afford this costly coalition and their carbon tax, and we know that only Conservatives will bring home lower prices for all Canadians by axing the tax for everyone, everywhere, for good.
The Honourable Member from Battleford's Lloydminster.
Mr. Speaker, after 9 years of this Prime Minister, Canadians are struggling just to put food on the table. Food insecurity continues to worsen across this country, and today, Food Bank Canada's poverty report card confirms it. Nearly 50% of Canadians feel financially worse off than last year. 25% of Canadians are going hungry, and food banks have seen a 50% increase since 2021. And Mr. Speaker, it's this Prime Minister's record. This NDP Liberal government's inflationary spending and taxes are driving up the cost of living, and his plan is just to keep hiking up the carbon tax, making gas, heating, and groceries even more expensive. Canadians are desperate, and the Prime Minister is not listening. Mr. Speaker, the Prime Minister is simply not worth the cost. Only common sense Conservatives will cap the spending, axe the carbon tax, and bring home lower prices for all Canadians.
The Honourable Member for Bourassa. Mr. Speaker, on the occasion of the 221st anniversary of the creation of the flag of Haiti, I had the high honour of decorating 21 personalities of Haitian origin here in the House of Commons. Thank you, Mr. Speaker, for having done us the honour of participating in this ceremony with other dignitaries. And thanks to these people who have exceptionally contributed over the past 60 years to our country, I'd like to list their names.
René Amilcar, Dominique Anglade, Nicole Baptiste, Carla Beauvais, Yvette Bonny, Fabienne Collat, Simone Métellus, Claudie Maupoint, Ruth Pierre-Paul, Dorothy Rowe, Marjorie Villefranche, hommage aux compatriotes, aux messieurs Angelo Cadet, Jean-Claude Icard, Fayol Jean, Sacha Wilkie Mérazil, Jérôme Métellus, Harry Max Prophète, Franz Saint-Elmy, Dickens Saint-Ville et Wilson Sanon.
Thank you to them all.
The honourable member from Winnipeg Centre.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Abortion rights are human rights, but the Liberals continue to deny equal access to that right. In New Brunswick, the Prime Minister has done nothing to address the total absence of abortion clinics throughout the province. And in Manitoba, we are at risk of losing our only abortion clinic. A right is only as good as the ability to access it, but this is merely a dream in many rural and remote areas. Meanwhile, Conservatives, including the Conservative leader, voted in favor of backdoor legislation to threaten abortion rights, while other Conservatives have tabled anti-choice petitions and have spoken at anti-choice rallies. The Abortion Rights Coalition of Canada has listed every Conservative MP as anti-choice after they unanimously supported Bill C-311. When abortion rights are under attack, words are not enough. The government must act to ensure everyone who needs a safe, trauma-informed abortion has access to receive one. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
The honourable member from Montcalm. In February of 2023, the Joint Committee recommended through a large majority that people suffering from dementia or Alzheimer's should be able to emit an advance directive for medical assistance in dying, even though 83% of Canadians support this kind of request. The various ministers of health and justice are conspicuous by their lack of political courage and their total lack of understanding of the issue. They are once again waiting for afflicted patients to be forced to bear the burden of winning their case in courts. Today, with the support of the Collège des Médecins du Québec, the Quebec Bar, the Chambre des Notaires du Québec, and a number of associations, we are once again calling upon the government to allow Quebec and any other province that wishes to do so to go ahead with advanced directives. To the people who are suffering and to Ms. de Montigny, we shall not abandon you. Never will we abandon you.
The honourable member from Peterborough, Kawartha.
Today's report from Food Banks Canada is shocking, jaw-dropping, and sad. Almost 44% of the population are spending more than 30% of their income on housing. The Liberal NDP government is failing Canadians. When that much of your income is going to housing, if you can even find housing, there is barely anything left for other necessities like food. 2 million people a month are accessing food banks in Canada. 1 in 3 of those visitors are children. Canadians are doing everything that is asked for them. They're going to work. They're paying outrageous taxes, but they still can't get ahead. Why? Because that Prime Minister spends, and then gaslights Canadians, tells them that Canada isn't broken and that everything is great. Canada and Canadians deserve housing and food they can afford. Conservatives will restore that grade from an F to an A, and we will bring it home so that everybody can afford to live. Yeah!
The honourable member from Brampton South.
Mr. Speaker, last week I had the honour of attending the high-level meeting on antimicrobial resistance at the United Nations in New York. As a director of UNITE, an international parliamentary organization for global health public, antimicrobial resistance on AMR is one of the top 10 global public health threats to humanity and causes more than 5 million deaths per year. Political leadership is essential for raising public awareness. It must work together to combat AMR. This is why the Government of Canada established a PHAC AMR task force and provided an important multi-year funding commitment of over $28 million in 2021. This government recognized the need to continue supporting research efforts in budget 2024 by allocating $1.8 billion to core research grant funding. I encourage everyone to work together for global public health in Canada and around the world. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Questions orales, oral questions.
The Honourable Leader of the Opposition. After 9 years of debt, taxes, and inflation from this Prime Minister and the Bloc, Canadians are hungry, literally. According to the Food Bank Report of Canada, 50% of Canadians say that they are in a worse situation than last year. 1/4 of Canadians have to use food banks for young people. How come the PM is forcing Canadians to feed their obese government when they can't even feed themselves? The Right Honourable Prime Minister, Mr. Speaker, it'd be more credible from the Leader of the Opposition if he wasn't opposed to our food school program that will help 400,000 children across the country to eat better with school programs. We are here to invest and to help families, while the Conservatives are only offering cuts and austerity, Mr. Speaker. It's the same thing in terms of our investment in dental care that have allowed almost 100,000 seniors to have access to dental care free of charge. And the Conservatives continue to be opposed to this. We are here to help with affordability.
Opposition.
Mr. Speaker, his plan for the full school program has provided no meals, 0 meals. It has just created red tape and not helped children. And in terms of austerity is what the 25% of young Canadians that have had to use food banks over the past 3 years are already experiencing. The 50% of Canadians who are worse off than last year are also experiencing this. And the 25% of them that are in food insecurity know what austerity is. It's austerity for Canadians. The Right Honourable Prime Minister, Mr. Speaker, once again, we see that the Conservatives are just trying to benefit from challenges that Canadians are facing. They're trying to score political points. But when it's time to vote on investments that will help families, like our school food program, or more daycare spots, or $10 daycare across the country, or dental care programs for seniors, they vote against these programs, Mr. Speaker. They are proposing government austerity and not investing in Canadians who are in need. We believe in economic growth and investment in families in need.
The Honourable Leader of the Opposition.
After 9 years of this NDP Liberal Prime Minister's taxes, debt, inflation, and promises, Canadians are hungry. Literally, according to the Food Banks Canada report, 50% of Canadians say they're worse off than a year ago. 25% are in food insecurity, and 1/4 of young adults went to a food bank in 3 months alone this year. Why is it that Canadians who can't feed themselves have to keep feeding his morbidly obese government?
The Right Honourable Prime Minister.
Speaker, it would be slightly more credible to hear the Conservatives concerned about the challenges Canadians are facing if they hadn't stood and voted against more spaces in childcare, voted against our dental care program that 2 million seniors have signed up for and has now delivered close to 100,000 dental appointments for seniors in just 22 days, Mr. Speaker. They've also stood against our school foods program that's going to help 400,000 more kids across the country have full bellies as they start their school day. These are investments that they're opposed to that we are there to help Canadians with.
The Honourable Leader of the Opposition.
Mr. Speaker, it's a school food program that has not served a single solitary meal, even though it was promised 3 years ago. What he's feeding is bureaucracy, not children. And if all of his spending were working, then why is it that Food Banks Canada reports today that 25% of young adults had to go to a food bank in 3 months alone, and 2 million Canadians are lined up every month? Mr. Speaker, with so many empty stomachs, isn't it just a little bit wacko to be raising carbon taxes on farmers and food?
The Right Honourable Prime Minister.
Mr. Speaker, we announced the National Food School program in the budget, and just after question period today, the Conservatives have an opportunity to vote in favour of the National School Food program and other initiatives that are going to help hundreds of thousands of kids across this country and indeed millions of Canadians with the high cost of living. But he's going to stand there and vote against it, Mr. Speaker, to prevent it from delivering the help Canadians need. We will keep going on delivering support for Canadians, and we will keep going on putting more money in the pockets of 8 out of 10 Canadians with our price on pollution that supports Canadian families and successfully fights climate change.
Hear, hear. The Honourable Leader of the Opposition.
He's been making exactly the same promises for 9 long years, and yet his NDP Liberal government has doubled housing costs, doubled the debt, increased the size of the bureaucracy by 50%. Now he wants to quadruple the carbon tax, all to deliver 2 million people to a food bank every single month. Mr. Speaker, if government programs were really going to solve the problem he caused, then why are Canadians so hungry?
Yeah. The Right Honourable Prime Minister.
Mr. Speaker, here's a perfect example of where the Conservatives stand. They stood and voted against our Dental Care for Seniors program. As of today, over 2 million seniors have signed up, and in the 22 days since May 1st, close to 100,000 seniors have gotten free dental care. That's in just 22 days. On a program that he voted against and that he campaigned against across the country over the past number of months. We will be there to invest in supporting Canadians with a national school food program, with dental care, with more childcare spaces, despite him voting against.
Hear, hear.
The Honourable Member for Belleuil-Chambly. Mr. Speaker, the Liberals say they're interested in French in Quebec and in Canada, but the Liberals are gradually paying for the disappearance of French in Western Canada. Moreover, they're mobilizing hundreds of unilingual Anglophone members to protect their Liberal colleague. Does the Prime Minister really want Francophones to believe that it's out of love for the French language that they are flooding the Association of French Francophone parliamentarians? Mr. Speaker, Francophones across our country, including those in Quebec, know full well that the Bloc is not interested in the future of French outside of Quebec. That's why they want to make Quebec their own country to protect French. But we understand that the best way to protect French in Quebec and across Canada is by investing in all communities who speak French across the country. To protect French in Quebec, yes, we're there to do that, but also to continue to stand up to protect Francophone minorities across this country, and we're going to continue to do so. The Honourable Member for Belleuil-Chambly. That's not true, Mr. Speaker, but the best thing that could happen to French in Quebec and in Canada and across the world would be an independent Quebec. However, Mr. Speaker, what did the Prime Minister say during the English debate in 2021 when I was the only one who wanted to talk about Francophones outside of Quebec in English, and I was told I wasn't allowed to talk about French in English at the English debate in his country? The Right Honourable Prime Minister. Mr. Speaker, in that debate, like in all debates and all possible opportunities, I always stand up to defend the French fact in Canada and to defend Francophone communities across this country. I've always done so, and I'm going to continue to do so. Defend linguistic duality and both official languages in this country across this country is what I've done. It's the Liberal Party of Canada, and for our Liberal government, we're going to continue to do so at every opportunity we have.
The Honourable Member from Burnaby South.
Loblaws isn't content just ripping off Canadians when they buy their groceries. Now they're teaming up with Rogers and Bell.
Just gonna, colleagues, it's important that we are able to hear the questions that are being asked as well as the answers. The honourable member from Burnaby South on the top, please.
Sure. I know the Conservatives don't like when I take on corporate greed, but Loblaws isn't content just ripping off Canadians when it comes to their groceries. Now Loblaws is teaming up with Rogers and Bell to rip off Canadians with their cell phone prices. We know they're going to limit choices, and limiting choices means higher prices for Canadians. The Prime Minister promised to lower cell phone fees. They're sky high. He promised to lower grocery fees. They're sky high. When will the Prime Minister finally stop greedy CEOs from ripping off Canadians?
The Right Honourable Prime Minister.
Mr. Speaker, we've actually seen cell phone bills decrease across the country by 25% over the past number of years, and we're going to continue to stand up for Canadian consumers. And indeed, I know the Minister is looking into the Competition Act to see if there needs to be referred on a number of things that have come forward. But we're going to continue to stand up for the middle class and people working hard to join it, which is why we raised corporate taxes, why we asked the wealthiest Canadians to pay a little more so we can invest more in younger Canadians, why we're continuing to step up on creating fairness for every generation with this budget, with the investments we're making, and with further investments as well.
The honourable member for Burnaby South.
Power to stop these greedy CEOs, but you do.
It's not enough to be ripping people off at the grocery store. Today we've learned that Loblaws is teaming up.
I know it's Wednesday and everybody is a little bit more primed for action, but it's really important for us to hear the questions and hear the answers.
The honourable member for Burnaby South. From the top, please.
Power to stop these greedy CEOs, but you do. I know the Conservatives don't like it, but we got to take on corporate greed.
It's not enough for Loblaws to be ripping people off at the grocery store. Today we've learned that Loblaws is teaming up with Rogers and Bell to block competition from other companies in their stores. This means less choice and higher cell phone bills. The Liberals are sitting on their hands. Will the Prime Minister finally stand up to the CEOs and support a full investigation into these allegations? I'd like to benefit from this opportunity to remind all members that when they will be asking questions and there are answers, that they go through the chair, please. The Right Honourable Prime Minister. Thank you very much, Mr. Speaker. The member knows full well that we did make improvements to give more power to the Competition Bureau because we know that it's by ensuring competition amongst the various companies that Canadians will have better results and prices. And we also know that's important to continue to do follow-ups on these issues, and that's why the minister is asking the Competition Bureau to look at what's happening in terms of cell phone packages and Loblaws. It's a challenge we're always going to take seriously.
The Honourable Leader of the Opposition.
Mr. Speaker, normally the NDP leader is well worth ignoring, but I just can't help myself. He says that the Prime Minister acts like he has no power to stop all of these greedy CEOs from ripping off consumers. Who else has the power? Well, the guy that joined the government 2 years ago. He's been in power during the worst food price inflation in over 4 decades. Will the Prime Minister agree with me that his carbon tax coalition is nothing more than an anti-competitive price-fixing scheme that is costing Canadians at the grocery store?
Right Honourable Prime Minister.
Once again, Mr. Speaker, we see that the Conservative Party's opposition to the price on pollution is ideological and not concrete, because their opposition to the price on pollution means they don't care about fighting against climate change. Even as wildfires are already raging in different parts of the country, they have no plan to fight against climate change. And they do it in the name of affordability while ignoring that the Parliamentary Budget Officer actually showed that 8 out of 10 Canadian families do better with the money put in their pockets from the Canada Carbon Rebate than it costs them with the price on pollution.
The Honourable Leader of the Opposition.
Mr. Speaker, the Parliamentary Budget Officer has concluded that 60% of Canadians pay more in carbon tax costs than they get back in the phony rebates. 100% of middle-class Canadians pay more than they get back in the phony rebates. And now the Prime Minister wants to quadruple the tax, all at a time when he's preparing to hand over power to carbon tax Carney. Will the Prime Minister confirm if carbon tax Carney will follow through on his plan to hike the tax to 61 cents a litre?
The Right Honourable Prime Minister.
Mr. Speaker, the Parliamentary Budget Officer has confirmed that 8 out of 10 Canadian families in jurisdictions where the carbon price federal backstop applies do better off with more money in their pockets through the Canada Carbon Rebate checks that land in their bank accounts 4 times a year. That's money in their pockets that goes to the cost of groceries, the cost of rent, the cost of everything they need to raise their families. That is money in their pockets that the Leader of the Opposition would take away because of its ideological crusade against climate action.
Then I have Shefton.
The Honourable Leader of the Opposition.
Prime Minister's wacko carbon tax obsession is costing Canadians not just at the pump, but it raises the cost of home heating, of groceries, because of course if you tax the farmer who produces the food and the trucker who ships the food, you tax all who buy the food. It's a housing tax because it raises the cost of building materials that go into homes. With the report out today that 25% of young people had to go to a food bank in just 3 months, will he accept the common sense Conservative bill to take the tax off the farmers who produce our food?
The Right Honourable Prime Minister.
Mr. Speaker, the Leader of the Opposition continues to make that argument even though he knows full well that farm fuels are 95% exempt from the price on pollution right across the country, Mr. Speaker. That is something that he ignores because of his ideological opposition to take any action in fighting climate change. Well, Mr. Speaker, I can tell you, in Conservative ridings right across the country, people are worried about droughts, people are worried about floods, people are worried about wildfires that are more and more severe. Canadians need a clean plan to fight climate change, which is something he hasn't put forward while we are fighting climate change and putting money in people's pockets.
The Honourable Leader of the Opposition.
Mr. Speaker, the Prime Minister's carbon tax applies on barns, on grain drying, on fertilizers, on off-farm vehicles. It costs literally tens of thousands of dollars for many individual farmers, all of which gets passed on. But the Prime Minister, instead of defending his taxes, resorted to a really wacko and unhinged claim that if Canadians just paid more taxes, there would be suddenly less fires. I thought that water and not taxes put out fires. But maybe the Prime Minister can clarify, how high would his tax have to go for forest fires to stop?
The Right Honourable Prime Minister.
Mr. Speaker, Canadians are facing the impacts of the extreme weather events that come from climate change that are unfortunately getting worse and worse every year. That is why our government from 2015 onwards has stepped up in the fight against climate change, because not only are we reducing Canada's emissions to the lowest level outside the pandemic in 25 years, but we're also stepping up in the jobs and technological innovations that the world needs to successfully fight climate change. We will continue to fight climate change, Mr. Speaker, and put more money in people's pockets while he sits with his arms crossed and no plan.
The Honourable Leader of the Opposition.
he didn't answer my question. Now he says that his taxes are going to make Canada a high-tech wonderland. Before, his claim was that it was going to stop forest fires. It's him that made the link, not me. Obviously, I think the link between the two is absolutely ridiculous because his tax is not an environmental plan. It's a money-collecting plan. It's a plan of government greed. So I'll ask the question again. He wants to hike the tax to 61 cents a litre. If it gets to that high and people are all starving in the streets, will that stop the forest fires?
The Right Honourable Prime Minister.
Mr. Speaker, in the Leader of the Opposition's desire to make clever rhetorical points, he actually completely ignores the basic facts. The price on pollution is revenue neutral for the federal government. That means the money that comes in for the price on pollution, for the carbon tax, gets returned to the jurisdictions, and is why the Parliamentary Budget Officer found 8 out of 10 Canadian families in jurisdictions where the carbon price applies do better with the Canada carbon rebate that comes in 4 times a year than the price on pollution costs them. That's a plan to fight climate change and put money in people's pockets.
The Honourable Leader of the Opposition.
Mr. Speaker, I'm sorry to be too clever for the Prime Minister, but he's the one who made the argument that high taxes would stop forest fires, and now he can't tell us how high the tax would go to put all the fires out. He went on now to say that his tax is revenue neutral. Well, you don't have to be too clever to read the government's own published documents, which shows that he has collected $2 billion more in taxes than he's given back in rebates. That's why 100% of middle-class Canadians pay more than they get back. So once again, will he tell those middle-class people how high the tax would have to go for the fires to stop?
The Right Honourable Prime Minister.
Mr. Speaker, what we just saw is climate denialism at its finest. The fact is, as global emissions rise, as carbon intensity in the atmosphere increases, extreme weather events like wildfires, droughts, and floods will simply become more and more frequent. Now, his plan is to do nothing, Mr. Speaker, and let future generations fend for themselves. Our plan is not only to reduce our emissions, but to create the solutions that the world needs while we lead on fighting climate change, bringing down emissions, and growing the economy.
The Honourable Member for Belleuil-Chambly. A new study from the OQLF has established that French as a working language has gone down from 90% of young people to 58%, 64 rather, to 60%. Does the Prime Minister recognize that his linguistic policies are not at all stopping the decline in French and it has weakened it? Or can he address the perverse insults that were made to Quebec scientists? The Right Honourable Prime Minister. Mr. Speaker, we are the first federal government to recognize that we have a responsibility in particular to protect French in Quebec. Yes, we are concerned with the decline of French that we're seeing across the country, including in Quebec. And that is why we are here to invest, to partner with the Quebec government to ensure that we are protecting the French fact in Quebec and official languages across our country. We're going to continue to be there to defend French, not for political ends like the Bloc is doing, but because it's the right thing to do for our country and our future. The Honourable Member for Belleuil-Chambly. Mr. Speaker, the Liberals admitted that they're responsible, but they've acted in the opposite. They have not supported. They gave money to Anglophones in Quebec to protect them from a French assimilation. If the Prime Minister is so concerned for Quebec, can he stop objecting the Bill 96 in Quebec and allow Quebec to manage its linguistic laws? The Right Honourable Prime Minister. Mr. Speaker, the Official Languages Act protects linguistic minorities across our country, and obviously Well, we want to protect Francophone minorities outside of Quebec, and also we have a responsibility to protect both official languages in a bilingual country and to protect all linguistic minorities, and we're going to continue to do so. But it doesn't prevent us from doing everything we can to protect French. It's not the Anglophone minority in Quebec that is being threatening French in Quebec. We're going to continue to fight to protect French in Quebec, across the province and across Canada. The Honourable Leader of the Opposition.
Years, this Prime Minister is not worth the cost of housing, which has doubled. But today, the Parliamentary Budget Officer released a damning report that showed that after the Prime Minister promised he would eliminate chronic homelessness, it's actually gone up 38%, and the number of people living in unsheltered locations is up 88%. This after he spent $500 million on homelessness programs. So if it costs $500 million for him to drive up homelessness, how much would it cost to drive it down?
Wow. The Right Honourable Prime Minister.
Mr. Speaker, whether it's the pandemic, whether it was global inflation, whether it was international economic situations, we've seen more and more Canadians suffering, including from the opioid and toxic drug epidemic that the Leader of the Opposition continues to attack and vilify. The reality is, Mr. Speaker, we've invested billions in countering homelessness, and we're going to continue to invest in eliminating encampments and supporting Canadians and communities, in vulnerable communities across the country. The Leader of the Opposition solution is to do less to fight homelessness, to invest less in vulnerable people. That's what he's doing when he votes against our current budget.
The Honourable Leader of the Opposition.
Again, he brags about his billions in spending, Mr. Speaker. People can't live in billions. They live in homes, and his billions build bureaucracies that block those homes. In 2015, there were 284 homeless people in Halifax. Now, there's 1,211. Wow. There are over 30 homeless encampments in Halifax alone. 10 years ago, there were 3,000 Quebecers who were homeless. Now it's 10,000. Why is it that the more he spends, the worse things get?
The Right Honourable Prime Minister.
Mr. Speaker, this government has chosen to invest to support Canadians through difficult times. We saw it through the pandemic, where we stepped up to put money in Canadians' pockets, money in community organizations, money in businesses and restaurants, in mom-and-pop shops right across the country, and we came out of it stronger economically. We restored full employment faster than the United States. We know that investing when people need supports is the right way to build for the future. Confident countries invest in themselves. What the Leader of the Opposition is proposing is austerity and cuts to programs at exactly the time that Canadians need them.
The Honourable Leader of the Opposition.
Canadians are already living through austerity, according to a PBO report. It has shown that since the Prime Minister promised to eliminate homelessness, it has increased by 38%. The number of homeless people in Quebec has risen from 3,000 to 10,000, Mr. Speaker. Yes, true, he's spending more money, that he's making everything more expensive. But when will he recognize that big government in Ottawa will never end homelessness? The Right Honourable Prime Minister. Mr. Speaker, no one in this country thinks that a Conservative government that will cut and offer austerity will help fight homelessness in our country. That's not how things work. It takes investment in housing that is affordable. It takes investment in programs to support people who are homeless. It takes investment in programs based on compassion and data to fight drug issues. This is the investment that is necessary. But he's just proposing cuts and austerity while Canadians are suffering. But we are here to invest in vulnerable communities. The Honourable Leader of the Opposition.
Devastating reports in one day demonstrate the NDP Liberal Prime Minister is not worth the cost. First, we had Food Banks Canada and the Salvation Army that say record numbers are forced to go to food banks, that over half of people are worse off than they were a year ago. And now the PBO says there is more homelessness. There's more homelessness and hunger. He's got three explanations. One, he can blame the rest of the world for his mistakes. Two, he can promise more of the spending that caused the problem. Or three, he can own up and admit that he caused the misery Canadians are living.
Here, here. The Right Honourable Prime Minister.
Mr. Speaker, while the Conservative leader likes to going around saying Canada is broken, we choose instead to invest in Canadians, invest in supporting food banks, invest in community organizations that are on the front lines of supporting vulnerable Canadians, investing in the kinds of programs that are lifting Canadians up, like the 2 million vulnerable seniors who are now accessing health care, dental care for the first time. 100,000 people in just 22 days have gotten dental care when the Conservative Party has consistently voted against it and indeed tried to block it both in this House and across the country. We will continue to be there for Canadians.
The Honourable Member from Edmonton Strathcona.
Ireland, Spain, and Norway announced that they will soon recognize the State of Palestine. This is a crucial step towards peace and justice for Palestinians and Israelis. But Canada is missing in action. In February, New Democrats asked this government to recognize the State of Palestine. They refused, and they turned their backs on Palestinians and Israelis who are looking for peace and justice in their region. The Prime Minister can take a stand today. Will he join with the consensus of international community and recognize the State of Palestine?
Hear, hear. The Right Honourable Prime Minister.
Mr. Speaker, we urgently need to build a credible path towards lasting peace. We oppose efforts by the Netanyahu government to reject a two-state solution. At the same time, Hamas, a terrorist group, currently controls areas in Gaza and has not laid down its arms or released its hostages. We are prepared to recognize the State of Palestine at the right time, not necessarily as the last step along the path. We were pleased to be able to support the NDP motion of a number of months ago. We will continue to work forward on promoting peace and working towards stability in the Middle East.
The Honourable Member from Nunavut.
Last week, I met with the Tumikulut Saipakivik Daycare in Iqaluit, a daycare that provides culturally appropriate care in Inuktitut. Because of a lack of funding, they are on the verge of closing. In 2022, the Liberals promised millions of dollars to Nunavut Daycare. The funding is taking too long to make its way to Tumikulut Saipakivik Daycare. Will the Liberals ensure Tumikulut does not fall through the cracks and get the urgent funding it needs to stay open?
The Right Honourable Prime Minister.
Investing in early learning and child care right across the country that is affordable, that is high quality, and that is available for families is one of the cornerstones of this government's policy of the past few years. We've worked closely with provinces and territories to make sure that money is delivered on the ground where it is needed the most. I will follow up on this particular case and make sure that the government of Nunavut is passing through the money and is accessing all the funds necessary so that child care in the north and indeed right across the country continues to be delivered as the social program and economic program that it is.
The Honourable Member from Vancouver Centre.
Mr. Speaker, as a family doctor who delivered close to 500 babies, I am concerned about access to reproductive choice. Claiming to support reproductive choice is not enough. We must pass legislation that makes it fully accessible to all. The Pharmacare Act is a start. It will provide free contraception to over 9 million patients. Unfortunately, our Conservative colleagues oppose it. They also oppose access to safe abortion. Will the Prime Minister reaffirm his government's promise to defend a woman's reproductive rights in spite of the opposition's efforts to deny it?
The Right Honourable Prime Minister.
Mr. Speaker, I thank the member for Vancouver Centre for her decades of leadership. We will always support a woman's right to access reproductive health care, both in our words and in our policy. The Leader of the opposition pretends to be pro-choice but supports his Conservative caucus members tabling anti-abortion legislation. He cannot have it both ways. If the opposition leader truly believed in the right to choose, he'd condemn any effort to restrict reproductive choice and freedom, including from within his own caucus.
Hear, hear. Order. The Honourable Leader of the Opposition.
After 9 years of this Prime Minister, the cost of housing has doubled because of his inflationist spending and the bureaucracy that he's funding, which is preventing construction. In Le Soleil today, we learned that those who have not yet found a home for the coming year are panicking. And there's a major risk that many people will be forced to camp this summer because they can't find a home. Is this Prime Minister's plan, after doubling the cost of housing, to provide tents to people who are going to have to go camping because they can't find a home? The Right Honourable Prime Minister. Well, I'm happy to be able to talk about our plan, which assures fairness for every generation. Our housing plan will build 3.87 million new housing units across the country by cutting bureaucracy, by changing zoning, and by lowering construction costs, and by using public land. We are going to bring back the dream of access to a home for young Canadians by helping them save money tax-free, and by allowing renters to use their history when asking for a mortgage. The Honourable Leader of the Opposition. The inflation that is hurting Canadians is the result of the inflationist and centralizing spending of this Prime Minister. No surprise. What's surprising is that the Bloc voted for $500 billion of that spending. And, you know, this isn't the money that's already in the main estimates. This is money that's doubling fees for consultants, for example, including money for ArriveScam. Does the Bloc Liberal government realize that more money for the federal government means less money for Quebecers? The Right Honourable Prime Minister. Once again, Mr. Speaker, we see the Conservative leader completely ignoring facts and data in all of the rhetorical arguments that he's putting forward. The reality, Mr. Speaker, is that the inflation, which has hit the entire planet, hurt Canada less than many other countries, and now over the last 4 months, inflation has gone down because of the investments and because of the sound, responsible financial management of our government. We will continue to be there to invest in Canadians while lowering inflation. That's what he doesn't understand.
The Honourable Leader of the Opposition.
Well, Mr. Speaker, inflation in housing is worse in Canada than in any other G7 country. It's the second worst of the 40 OECD countries. But the question was about inflationary spending and centralizing spending that the Bloc continues to vote for. The Bloc Québécois has become a socialist party that wants to increase the size of the government. But they're focused on the federal government. So that means a bigger federal state and less autonomy and money for Quebecers. And why is it only the Conservatives who are defending Quebecers?
Premier Minister.
The Right Honourable Prime Minister. Now, Mr. Speaker, we all remember what these Conservatives do when it comes to Quebec. We saw the cuts to social health services and healthcare. We saw the cuts in the health transfer. We saw the cuts to arts and culture, Mr. Speaker. The Conservatives are standing up today to attack the Bloc Québécois for not properly defending Quebec. Well, that's ridiculous, Mr. Speaker. The reality, Mr. Speaker, is that the Bloc is to defend Quebecers. They do it less well than the federal government can do it, but the attacks from the Conservatives against Quebecers are a bit ridiculous, Mr. Speaker. The Honourable Leader of the Opposition. Well, here. The Liberal Bloc Party. A beautiful coalition, a beautiful coalition. Now the Prime Minister, the so-called Federalist Prime Minister, says that the Bloc defends Quebecers. What? What? And the Bloc is voting for centralizing spending here in Ottawa. What? What is going on here? Everything is confused, Mr. Speaker. Isn't it time to forget this ridiculous coalition and replace it with a Conservative government that has a lot of common sense? The Right Honourable Prime Minister. Mr. Speaker, apparently, unlike the leader of the Conservatives, I believe fundamentally that every member in this House is there to defend the interests of the people who elected them. That is our individual responsibility and collective responsibility. And every person here in this House is doing that. Yes, people know very well that I disagree with the ultimate goal of the Bloc Québécois. But at the same time, we can certainly find moments where we can work together with respect to protect the French language, to create economic growth in Quebec. We are there to work together, not to play political games and to just attack everyone. That's what the Conservatives are here to do. The Honourable Member for Belleuil-Chambly. Mr. Speaker, in the western St. Lawrence Gulf, there's only one fishery that's open. That's crustaceans, crab, and lobsters. All the other fisheries are closed or in crisis. However, the member for Gaspésie and the Minister of Fisheries is closing all kinds of fishery areas throughout the region. What is the Prime Minister saying to fishers who have to go back home to port and who are seeing another fishing season disappear in front of their eyes? The Right Honourable Prime Minister. Well, Mr. Speaker, we understand the distress and the challenges that fishers are facing in Eastern Canada. We're seeing a very difficult moment because of climate change, because of changing and diminishing maritime populations. We are going to be there to support the fishers, but part of being there to support them is also protecting our international markets and filling out our scientific responsibilities. And in respecting international law. We are going to be there to help the fishers, and we are also going to be there to protect endangered species and our trade agreements in the future. The Honourable Member for Belleuil-Chambly. Well, I'll give him another chance, Mr. Speaker. It's because of the right whales that the fishery areas are closed. Everyone wants to protect the whales. But the government is threatening them by opening up new areas for oil exploration. Fishers, scientists, the Bloc Québécois have proposed some ideas. The department's not listening, the minister isn't listening, and the fishing sector is facing an unprecedented crisis. Does the Prime Minister believe that fishers should respect the minister? Does he have trust in the minister? The Right Honourable Prime Minister. Mr. Speaker, we are working closely with industry, with scientists, and with our international partners to manage a very, very difficult situation. We understand the extent to which this is a difficult situation for fishers, and we are going to continue to be there for them. And we are going to make sure that the decisions that we're taking are going to respect the interest of the industry and also the environment, obviously, and will protect endangered species. It's a very complex issue, Mr. Speaker, but we're going to be there not with simplistic solutions, but with the necessary support to ensure the long-term success of our resource. The Honourable Leader of the Opposition. After 9 years of this Prime Minister and the Bloc Québécois, Canadians are exhausted. They don't have any money left in their pockets, and many are hungry. They need vacations, but it's too expensive. The Prime Minister has doubled the national debt. That has increased the price of everything. Interest rates have gone up as well. So that's why the Conservatives, the common sense Conservatives, are proposing a vacation on gas and diesel taxes to allow Quebecers to have a break. Will the Prime Minister have the common sense to accept this great idea? The Right Honourable Prime Minister. Mr. Speaker, Quebecers know too well what happens when the Conservatives bring in austerity measures when it comes to affordability and the cost of living. That's why we will continue to invest in families. We will continue to be there to help seniors. We will continue to be there to help children with a school food program. We are going to be there to create more daycare spaces. All of these are proposals that the Conservatives have voted against. They will cut in social programs, cut social services, cut help for families, because of their ideology of austerity. We'll be there for Quebecers and Canadians. The Honourable Leader of the Opposition.
The NDP Liberal Prime Minister has implemented a wacko and radical drug decriminalization and handout program. He's literally handed out tax-funded opioids. The result has been tragic, a nearly tripling in the number of overdose deaths. And where the policy has been most deeply implemented, in BC, a 300% increase in overdose deaths. Prime Minister did a last-minute reversal on decriminalization in that province, only to vote back in favor of decriminalization yesterday. Isn't it his plan to decriminalize across Canada if he's re-elected?
The Right Honourable Prime Minister.
Mr. Speaker, the fact is we will continue to be there responsibly on a science-based, evidence-based approach that works with jurisdictions on the tools they need to counter the growing opioid and toxic drug epidemic. I understand the ideological desire by Conservatives to simply look at every problem as if it's a nail because all they have is a hammer. We're going to continue to be there investing in community supports. We're going to be there to continue to work with jurisdictions who want to help people struggling with addictions, and we will continue to be there to ground in science and evidence.
The Honourable Leader of the Opposition.
Imagine you're a young couple in a hospital welcoming your newborn into the world, and all of a sudden you smell meth or crack smoke coming down the hallway. That was the reality up until just a few weeks ago in British Columbia, when because the Prime Minister and the NDP had decriminalized crack. And if those parents had asked the nurse to stop it, they would have said, no, that can't happen. These drug uses are now legal. We're introducing the Safe Hospitals Act to ban all hard drugs from hospitals. Will the Prime Minister support it? Yes or no?
The Right Honourable Prime Minister.
Mr. Speaker, to be clear, those things are already illegal in hospitals. We know that nurses and hospital staff need to feel safe in their work environment, and it's our government that has invested billions of dollars into the healthcare system to ensure Canadians have access to the best care possible, and support goes to our frontline health workers. The important difference between the Conservative Party and us is that while they look to criminalize the most vulnerable struggling with addictions, we are rolling up our sleeves and working with all levels of government to put an end to this crisis and help these most vulnerable Canadians.
The Honourable Member for Ottawa-Vanier. Thank you, Mr. Speaker. For many, costs are an obstacle that prevent access to health care, particularly when it comes to reproductive health care. The right to access to an abortion is threatened in Canada by the March Against Abortion, which took place here in Ottawa, encouraged and followed by Conservative members who promised again to restrict access to health care. Young people here in Ottawa-Vanier are worried. They want to know, what is the government doing to fight against these threats on the rights of women? The Right Honourable Prime Minister. I'd like to thank the member for Ottawa-Vanier for her very hard work and her leadership. Across the way, the Conservative members are proposing anti-choice legislation. They participate in rallies against abortion, and the Conservative leader not only refuses to oppose his caucus, but even voted with them on a bill that would have classified the fetus as a person. Women have the right to choose, and that's why we are making prescription contraceptives free, and we will continue to defend the right to choose.
The Honourable Leader of the Opposition.
After 9 years of this NDP Liberal Prime Minister's wacko crime policies, extortions are up 218% nationally, 263% in Ontario, roughly the same in Alberta, and roughly 400% in British Columbia. The Prime Minister passed a law that would allow extortionists out of jail faster after they've used a gun. Will he reverse himself and support my common sense Conservative deputy leader's bill to crack down on extortionists and put them in behind bars to stop the crime?
The Right Honourable Prime Minister.
Mr. Speaker, the problem with the Conservative leader's approach on crime is it consistently gets struck down by the courts. That's what we saw through 8 years of Stephen Harper, which actually led Canadians worse off than before. The reality is, Mr. Speaker, our approach on cracking down on criminals while at the same time making sure our communities are safer by strengthening the gun laws the Conservatives are continually voting against in the pocket of the gun lobby is not keeping Canadians safe. That's why we worked with the provinces on bail reforms that are going to make sure we're keeping Canadians safe while making sure we're charter compliant.
The Honourable Leader of the Opposition.
Mr. Speaker, the Prime Minister was not forced by the courts to allow career car thefts to do their sentences in their living rooms, playing Grand Theft Auto. He chose to do that through his bill C5. He chose to bring in catch and release bail through C75. He chose to pass a law allowing Paul Bernardo out of Max Penn. Mr. Speaker, now we can make another choice. Instead of trying to ban Grandpa Joe's hunting rifle, will he put extortionists who use machine guns in jail?
The Right Honourable Prime Minister.
Mr. Speaker, the Leader of the Opposition has continually pledged to make assault-style weapons legal again. We have banned them for the past 4 years, and we will continue to make sure that they stay banned in this country, while the Leader of the Opposition wants to bring back assault-style weapons to our communities and to Canadians from coast to coast to coast. That's not how to keep this community safer. On top of that, Mr. Speaker, in the name of protecting Canadians from crime, he's willing to suspend their fundamental freedoms by using the notwithstanding clause to override the Charter of Rights and Freedoms. That's not responsible, and it makes you wonder what other rights is he going to come after on Canadians.
The Honourable Leader of the Opposition.
Mr. Speaker, military-style assault rifles have been banned since the 70s. The Prime Minister held a press conference with a big, scary gun on the front of his podium 4 years ago and still hasn't been able to figure out how to ban that scary-looking cartoon gun with 1,500 guns under amnesty to this day. And he says he won't be able to figure out how to do it for at least another 3 years. So, will the Prime Minister stop his made-in-Hollywood approach to crime and actually lock up the hard criminals so that we can stop the crime?
The Right Honourable Prime Minister.
Mr. Speaker, for the past 4 years, it has been illegal to buy, sell, or use assault-style weapons in this country, and that is exactly what the Conservative leader has promised to overturn if he gets elected to government in this country. The reality is he wants to bring back assault-style weapons in this country after we banned them back in 2000. We're going to continue to be there to make sure Canadians are safe while he stays in the pocket of the gun lobby. That's not what Canadians want. That's not even what Conservative Canadians want, but he's going to do it anyway.
The Honourable Member from Davenport.
Mr. Speaker, while our government works to provide pharmacare, expand childcare, introduce a national school food program, and build housing, Conservative MPs are giving speeches at anti-abortion rallies. Reproductive health is health. Women have the right to choose when and if they start a family. With members of this House threatening to take this right away from Canadians, what is this government doing to strengthen reproductive rights?
The Right Honourable Prime Minister.
Mr. Speaker, the member for Davenport is right. Reproductive health is health, and abortion is health care. The leader of the opposition pretends to care about freedom, but whose freedom was he defending? By threatening to suspend Canadians' charter rights, by voting to restrict abortion, or by removing the right to vote from thousands of Canadians when he was Minister of Democratic Institutions. That is the very opposite of freedom. We will never back down from defending all Canadians' fundamental rights and freedoms.
Hear, hear. The honourable member from Windsor West.
2 years after the illegal border blockade at Ambassador Bridge, the Liberals are stiffing the City of Windsor by not paying back the city for costs for handling this mess. Canadians are used to being ripped off by big grocery stores and big telecoms, but now they can add the Liberals to that list. And where were the Conservatives while this happened? On the sidelines, cheering on this harm. Mr. Speaker, the Prime Minister asked Windsor to protect our country, so why is he rewarding this attack on the economy, public safety, and frontline workers by not paying Windsorites back the money that they're owed?
Hear, hear. The Right Honourable Prime Minister.
Mr. Speaker, the member knows full well that we paid back a significant amount of the costs incurred by the City of Windsor during the Conservative-supported convoy. There is a matter of a dispute around whether those legal fees were to be covered by the federal government. And I know the Minister of Public Safety is meeting with the Mayor of Windsor tomorrow, and I'm sure that'll be on the discussion. In the meanwhile, we've continued to stand up for Windsor with historic investments in jobs and opportunities for Windsorites that, quite frankly, Conservatives continue to stand against, while we will continue to be there for the people of Windsor.
Hear, hear. The honourable member from Kitchener Centre.
Mr. Speaker, earlier this week, the University Network for Human Rights published a 100-page report concluding that Israel's actions in Gaza constitute genocide. Now, the International Criminal Court's chief prosecutor is seeking arrest warrants for both Hamas terrorists and Israeli leaders. There's no equivalency being made. These individuals may simply be accused of breaking international law, which the court is tasked to uphold. Will the PM support the ICC's process, as is the will of this Parliament from March 18th?
The Right Honourable Prime Minister.
Mr. Speaker, obviously we're closely monitoring the processes as they unfold at the ICC. We respect the independence of the court. There is no equivalence between Israel and Hamas. One is a state, the other is a terrorist organization. As we've said from the beginning, all parties have a necessary obligation to comply with international law. In the meanwhile, an immediate ceasefire is urgently needed, and a lot more humanitarian aid needs to get in, and hostages need to be released. We will continue to stand for a two-state solution. We will continue to call for peace in the region.
Colleagues, that is the end of question period, but I wish to draw to the attention of members in the gallery to the presence of the Honourable Paul Calandra, Government House Leader, Minister of Legislative Affairs, and Minister of Municipal Affairs and Housing for the province of Ontario. It being 3:20, pursuant to an order made on Tuesday, May 21st, 2024, the House will now proceed to the taking of the deferred recorded division on the amendment of Mr. Allison to the motion at second reading stage of Bill C-69. Call in the members.